There's a lot of beer to get through somehow this week. No, you're a beautiful princess. No, you are. No, you are. Yes, you are. Hey there, hopheads! Welcome to the shed and to Even Star's Parade o' Pump Clips, where we take a look at what I've been drinking in the pub over the last week. So without further ado, let's get to it and get this show on the road. First up, we have Tractor Spotter from Mira House. This was a very dark gold or even orange ale, very clear. Right up front, very spicy with cloves, cinnamon, and nutmeg. Fruity with dried apricots and figs, but not sweet. It was like a medium bitter, very, very pleasant. Mira House is a new brewery to me, and I found this pump clip like rather amusing, which I'm sure you probably will as well. You'll find a lot of references to rural culture and farming in UK beer branding, especially on pump clips. Many breweries are countryside based and they serve like a local agrarian market. Interestingly, Mira House is not Scottish, so you can see like the sort of little tartan and maybe like thistle shape of the pump clip up there. I right away thought they were Scottish, and also because of the name Muir. But they're not. They come from Derbyshire, and the tartan on the pump clip refers to the proprietor's Scottish clan. So he is a Muir, and they were Scottish. But these guys were new to me, and I enjoyed the beer very much indeed. Next up, we've got Valiant, which is the latest effort from a very local to me brewer called Mr. Majolica. And Mr. Majolica, always very recognizable branding. It's always the black on white pump clip with the big Victorian mustache. Apart from one beer that he does called Phantom, which is a white mustache on a black background. He's a very small operation. I think he's almost like working out of his garage. So he only sells to like local pubs in my area. So if you're looking out for Mr. Majolica, and he does do a few good beers, I apologize. You probably won't find him. He is also very hit and miss. I always like to try a new one from him, but he's got like a 50% success rate. His good ones are to die for, right? Just brilliant beers. And the bad ones are to die from. Valiant, for me, unfortunately, was the latter. It was dark gold, it smelled of sweet fruits and butterscotch, so I actually had high hopes for this before I took a sip. Very fruity, sour flavors. Very rich, very sharp, acidic, vinegary, almost, sourness. And not only was it not my bag, but unfortunately it wasn't anyone's bag. This was on for 2 weeks at our local, and they simply couldn't shift it. In contrast, our local will go through sort of a typical barrel, which I think is 71 or 72 pints, in 5 to 7 days, so there's usually a weekly turnaround. This one they just could not sell. So that was too bad, because I do like Mr. Majolica, because he's a small local guy and I do kind of root for him. Next up, we've got Red Bantam from another Essex brewery, Mighty Oak. And if you follow the blog, you'll have heard quite a bit about Mighty Oak. I get to try their beers very often. This is one of their monthly one-off specials. Many breweries will have a standard set of beers. Mighty Oak does as well. And also the breweries will tend to have a set of seasonal standards. So seasonal regulars, they'll do one for winter, spring, summer, fall, that kind of thing, maybe a particular Christmas one. Mighty Oak, they go sort of one step further. They're quite prolific brewers. And they make a beer for each month of the year that they will never ever make again. So every year you get 12 brand new ones from them that they'll never make again. So it's really kind of fun when you find one on at the pub and you get to try them. So I'm quite lucky because our local gets Mighty Oak in very often. This one was a dark red beer, malty and astringent. Predominantly bitter coffee flavors, and a tart fruitiness like tomatillo or like fusalis, you know, like those little tiny orange fruits you get from the Chinese lanterns. There's no sweetness at all, and quite sort of a savory, peppery green edge of rocket. Next up, we've got the Baldy, and the Baldy is a custom beer made especially for our local, the Theobald Arms, by Brentwood Brewing Company, also Essex-based. I've had this once before many years ago, and I didn't like it, but I thought I'd give it another chance on this particular occasion because it was it was the only beer that was on, so I thought, I haven't had it for a few years, let's give it a chance, right? So it's an orange beer, and it was much more interesting than I remember it being. It was sort of bitter up front with what I refer to as sort of a touch of the farmyard dankness, but not offensively earthy. Sort of boot polish and cigars. There's an underlying sweetish fruitiness like orange peel and cinnamon. In the end, it's not a bad beer, and I would probably change my initial assessment of it. As I said, the name The Baldy comes from the name of the pub, the Theobald Arms, but we've also theorized that it could be referring to the rather cantankerous landlord of our local pub as well. Okay, so up next we've got another Mighty Oak special, The Joy of Six, and that's the joy of the beer pun as well. And we've got a rather strange phenomenon here in the UK, which I don't know if I've seen anywhere else in terms of beers and beer branding. So we get like Christmas beers and sometimes Halloween beers, occasionally Easter beers. You know, you'll get, you know, summer, winter warmer beers, that kind of thing. But we also get beers for major sporting events, and the Joy of Six on this pump clip refers to the Rugby Six Nations tournament that happens at this time of year. It is a light red beer, like sort of maybe a russet color, and I really like this one. It was surprisingly citrus, it was rich and hoppy, bitter up front with sort of a lemon zest, sort of a sweeter, fruity middle of cherries and strawberries before it finished on a very green sort of tobacco bitter. I really like this kind of brown or red ale that's got this really sort of bitter citrus hoppiness. I don't know why. Maybe it's just sort of the contrast of the color with what you're expecting from a lighter beer. I don't know. I really like that sort of combination. And in reference to kind of like sporting beers, we also get like cricket beers when the Ashes are on. Do you have a local brewery that celebrates local events in beer, or sporting events or anything like that where you're from? Let us know in the comments below. I'd really like to know. Next up, we've got Aec Regal, and this comes to us from Somerset Brewer Cottage. Again, if you read the blog regularly, you'll know I get to try a lot of cottage beers. This one was a blonde ale, and all I can really describe when you first take a whiff of it and take a sip is peaches. It was peaches. Like, it was very strange, because you just mouthful of peach. And there really was no other word to describe it. It was just so fruity. Smelled like peaches, tasted like peaches. And I believe that's what they call like a fruit-forward beer. But it didn't actually have any fruit in it, interestingly. The flavor just all comes from the hops. Yeah, no peaches were harmed in the making of this beer. But although it was so fruity, it was also pleasantly bitter. Quite bitter, in fact, in spite of all that peachiness, and astringent as well. I just really can't express how much it tasted like peaches. It was very strange, and I was so surprised that it wasn't a fruit beer. It was also sort of a green bitter. It was slightly piney. I'm not a fan of fruit beers, but I had 2 pints of this, so, you know, shut my mouth. Many of cottage beers, this is referring to the pump clip, have a transportation theme. They do, you know, planes and trains. If you look at the blog, you'll get to see quite a few of those. This is a bus, and that's what the Aec Regal refers to, is a bus. I believe the AEC refers to the Automated Equipment Company. I'm not sure, but it's a British manufacturer, used to make buses. And finally, we've got Anno X, or Anno 10, I guess you would call it, from another Derbyshire brewer, also new to me, Derventio. This was a very blonde beer, very pleasant green and citrus flavors, hoppy with lemon zest and grapefruit, but not overly fruity. In the middle, there was some nice tart green apple with a lingering herbal bitter of thyme and sage. Looking at their sort of website information, it would seem that all of their beers have this sort of ancient Roman theme, because the brewery is located near an ancient Roman settlement. And there is still a river and a reservoir up in that part of the world called the Derwent. And it is an absolutely beautiful part of the UK. If you've never been, you must visit. So I always have a soft spot for Derbyshire beers because I love that county. So that's it for this week's parade of pump clips. If you enjoyed that, please give me and Beer Tiki a thumbs up and subscribe for more from the world of British beer. So until next time, I'm Even Star, you're in the shed, and this is the Beer in Review.